Going to have a look at doing a photo bash. In this particular one, I'm going to look at doing a cyborg. When you are doing this kind of stuff, let's make sure you start up your document correctly. So by doing that, I'm going to go to File, New, and if you're going to be building it for film and TV, try and get the aspect ratio and the format that you're going to be building this for. If you're going to be doing it for print, similar. But what I kind of say, if you are going to go for print, if you're going to go for a large size poster, A1, A0, something like that, the highest I kind of recommend is going A3. Anything much larger than that, you're going to find as your project gets bigger and bigger, the file sizes are going to get immense. So for this particular project, I'm going to stick with A4. This will allow you to print it, A3 slightly bigger as opposed to without too much of drama and still allow quite a bit of detail. I'm going to set mine for landscape, but again, that's on you. That's your responsibility to try and figure out what format you are building in. Alright, so it is important to set up your document first so that when you do start importing your images in, they are relative to the size of that document, and that way you can check. So the last thing you want to do is open up an image that you found online and build on top of that without knowing how big it actually is, because you could be working on a postage stamp. So I'm actually going to start with this image that I've got from Adobe Stock. I've dragged and dropped it in here, and when you drag and drop, it will have this bounding box around it, obviously, and this is going to allow me to try and figure out what size it's going to be when I start. So I kind of like this image because it's got like an interesting side profile to it. I'm going to scale it up a little bit. I kind of like the look on this guy's face, sort of looking off into nowhere. Now, I don't actually think this is a particularly easy image to depatch. So, I want to get rid of the background on this. And before you start importing other images, I really do suggest you get your starting image set first. So if it's a person, in this case for a cyborg image, or if it's a landscape that you're adding things to, get that first, get it set up properly before you start bringing stuff in. Now, the big reason why I don't think this is super easy is there's a lot of contrast between the background and our actual image, and that is going to make depatching a little bit tricky, but let's give it a try. So I'm going to start off, there it is there. I'm going to start by depatching this. Now, another trick, if you are super worried about totally destroying your image, do duplicate it if you wish. Take it down to the little plus button, turn the visibility off of the duplicate, and you can go from there. So that's if you're cautious. I get cautious sometimes, so I'll do it later on. I probably delete it. Alright, so let's start and see if we can actually depatch this. Now, if you are running 2024 or later, if you're in the future, you will have a little bar here. This is the contextual taskbar. You can see that by going to Window, contextual taskbar. It's pretty good. I do find it a bit annoying because it kind of jumps where I'm working, so you can actually move it off to the side here, and it's got an object option called select subject or even remove background. So while it's still really important that we know how to use our tools manually, this could be a good option. So I've just clicked remove background. It's done an okay job. Nothing's really fantastic on this, but see what you can do. I'm going to try select subject, see if that makes any difference. Select it, and then you've got an option for mask here, or you've got your mask at the bottom of your layer panel, and we're getting pretty much the same result. So it is what it is. So this is what we kind of have to deal with here. So let's mask it either way. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually jump into my mask mode. So over here on my layers panel is the mask, and you can either right click on that and go to select and mask, and it's going to open you in mask mode here. Now over here in our view mode, we've got our options of how we're going to view this. So on black, on white, overlay is going to give us a color, and also adjust that opacity accordingly. So we've also got one called onion skin, which is going to allow you to see the background and what's missing, and this one's pretty good. This is why it's at the top, because I can see that it's missing some hair and stuff like that. So just be willing to sort of jump between options. Now there's a button up here called refine hair, and if you click on that, it might fix up the hair a little bit, it might not, it's kind of eating away there, but what I usually recommend is go and grab this tool here. This is the Refine Edge tool, and you can go through and you can actually run that along the edge of the hair, and that might actually fix it. Now, I can actually see that this is still doing a really horrible job. I kind of knew that was going to be the case, and fixing this is going to be an absolute nightmare. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to try and remove the hair. I'm not too fussed about it. I'm going to just use like the front part of this guy's face. Was kind of my intent because I knew it was going to be a bit of a schlep. So we do have some options in this to try and get this. I'm going to switch into this tool at the top. This is the quick selection tool, and it works like a brush. So use your square brackets to adjust the brush size, and we start off with a plus or a minus, and of course Alt will activate the minus as well, and I'm going to drag that through, and I'm actually going to start deselecting the hair a little bit. So this is a fairly important image, so I do want it to get relatively good, so I've still just got that finger on the Alt button. Now it's eaten some of his eye here, so I'm going to take my finger off Alt, thereby activating the plus on that. And that's, it's getting there. It's okay. So combination of subtract or plus. Alright, so there's a few bits down here I'm going to try and subtract as well, and as it starts, going forwards and backwards, it's a battle. It really is. Just trying to figure out what you got. Now on here on his back, I can see there's some weird, where Photoshop's kind of struggled a bit, and also over here there's obviously a few bits. Now you can also switch over to your brush tool and once again Alt and try and paint that out, but I actually prefer doing that outside of this mode because I just find it gets a little bit clunky. Alright, as we go down, I'm just going to go over to check out some of these options in global refinement. So this will actually allow me to do things like feather out my image. So if it's the edge is a bit too solid, we can do that. We've also got a smooth option, which is going to average everything out. But do check out the radius. So it's going to punch out the radius a little bit, and we can also shift the edge now. So sometimes it takes a few moments for it to kick in. So you can see I can kind of move that around. So this can be useful if your image is, it's just the edges aren't really looking that great. Alright, that's getting pretty close. I'm going through this pretty quick. I'd spend a bit more time on this, but finally what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit that view button, and I'm going to go to black and white, and this is going to allow me to see any areas that might cause a bit of drama later. So specifically white is going to be visible, black invisible, but down here is a little area that's kind of got black where I don't want it to be. So I'm just going to grab my brush tool with that, and I'm going to paint in with the positive on that. I can fix it outside, but there it is there. Alright, nice little thing to do as well if you are going to do a composite image or a photo bash is just create a layer below which is going to be a contrasting color. Typically a red is used or green or something like that, but sometimes switching it out to black and white can also be useful. I'm going to go G and just make sure I'm on the paint bucket and dump in a contrasting color. So be willing to sort of change the color of that as required. So if you really need to see the edges of stuff a little bit, that's where it's going to kind of play through. Alright, so I'm going to do a tiny little bit of manual repair on this one. So I've got my mask selected. I'm going to go B for brush, and I'm right clicking, and I'm just going to select a soft round brush in this case. I'm hitting D for default to give me my black and white colors over here, and I'm hitting X, which is the shortcut for this arrow to switch around, because I actually want black. I'm going to erase some stuff, so there it is there. So I'm going to run this across his shoulder. I'm going to hold down the shift key, so I'm just going to draw straight lines point to point, and I'm going to use that just to try and even this out. Now obviously there's a bunch of different ways we can do this, but sometimes just the old manual ways works pretty well. The rest of this is okay. There's a few weird bits in there, but we can fix that up later. I'm probably not going to use a bunch of his hair, so if I wanted to I could probably chunk that out for the most part, but I'll do a bit of refining on that later. Alright, so there is the starting of my mask. Do look out for scallywag lines that kind of escape all over the place. And we're going to have a look at just a little bit of photo repair on this now. So I want to probably get rid of some of these strands of hair that are covering the face. Yeah, I know I chose an image that was difficult, but to do that, we've got a few options. So one of them is the spot healing tool, the remove tool, healing brush tool, patch tool, content aware move tool, and the other one is the stamp tool, which is going to allow us to stamp things out. I'm actually going to start with the spot healing tool. It's only fine strands here, and I'm going to have a look up the top here, content aware, awesome, and I'm going to select my layer. So at the moment, this is a smart object, so we might run into a problem, and it says yes, the smart object must be rasterized before I can do it. So I can't paint on or erase a smart object. So instead, what I'm going to do is just create a new layer above, and I'm going to make sure it says sample all layers. If it doesn't, it's only going to sample the layer you've got selected, in which case this is invisible, so it's not going to do much. So I'm going to sample all layers, and I'm going to start painting over, and hopefully try and clean up some of these little hairs that are kind of covering his face, like so. So if that works, fantastic. Spend a bit of time doing it. If it's causing a bit of drama, which is what to do, don't forget you do have your stamp tool, and that will allow you to press down the Alt key, and you can sample from another area that may already be cleaned up and bring that across. So use this, I don't want to say sparingly, but use little sections of it occasionally. Watch out for areas that look like obvious photo repairs. So that usually happens when you overdo the feature over and over again, and you get little repeats and stuff like that. So that's is what it is. You can also try the patch tool for larger areas. Do note that the patch tool only works on one layer at a time. So you can see I've kind of patched this and I want to move it. So if that is the case, you will need to create a merged layer with the background and the repair areas and stuff like that. So that's kind of where we're going from that there. All right, so I'm going to just jump to the next kind of thing. I'm going to show you a really cool trick which will hopefully help you out in the future. So I've got this layer with the repairs where the hair are, and I've got my smart object here. I can't really merge them without destroying this as a smart object, and I do like kind of making sure my smart object moves. So if you are feeling destructive, you can select both of these, right click and go to merge layers. There it is there. Command or Control E. So and it will smash them together. Now the downside of this is it's going to merge the mask in there as well. So that mask, if I've messed something up, I can't really get that back. So I'm going to step back. So another option to do, and if you do see me doing this stuff live, I will do this quite a bit, quite surprisingly. What I will do is I will Control or Command on a Mac and click on the mask. So I want to keep the mask for this before I rasterize it or do anything crazy with it. So then I can right click on that. So Control and Command select the mask, and you can see it's got the marching ants around it. So it's basically got that mask now, and I can right click and disable or delete the mask. Cool. So we're back to this dude now. It does have the repair stuff on the top, so now what I can do is shift select both of those, right click and merge them. Now you can also convert it to a smart layer, but I'm okay with this at the moment, and then I'm going to reapply that mask. Hooray! So now I've got my mask, and if I need to do any rebuilds on that, it's still there. Awesome. So alright, cool, I've got this mask, but what if I want to now do some more aggressive masking? I don't want to destroy what I've done here, but what you can do to kind of add a secondary mask, besides using a vector mask, is you can actually put this layer in a group folder. So I'm going to go group folder. I'm going to make sure that's in the group folder, like so. Rename it. So I'm going to call this face. whatever. And also, I like to give things colors. So right click, go to color, and give it a color. It's just to help identify it. So, give backgrounds a color, give objects a color, give people a color, whatever it's neat. All right, and then on this group folder, I can actually go ahead and add a mask. So I hit the mask button. There it is there. And then what I can do is, maybe select black, and I can, further mask that out or do whatever. So that's kind of cool. The other thing that's useful as well is that in this group folder, if I wanted to, I could also do some further repairs on this. So for example, this could be a good opportunity for me to try out the patch tool. So I'm going to select this little area here under his chin, something like that. Boom. And with the patch tool selected, I can actually move that around, see if I can find an area that might be a similar kind of skin. Now, it's going to do a combination of the two layers, so it can be a bit weird, and it's going to take across the info from that. But it could be a good fix because I've got a mask on there. It's also doing that. Or you could try the stamp tool. Whatever's necessary to try and fix that. So I'm going to do a little bit there, for example, and instead of fixing that up, I might just grab my mask and brush and just fix that up a little bit. So I want it getting good to start with, and I'd fix that up a little bit more, but hey, that's all good. All right, so next thing I'm going to do is I did have a mask on this group folder. I'm going to use, for this one, I actually want to get a really clean line to define this part of the face, because I'm going to put like, I don't know, cyborg stuff or something at the back. So to do that, to get a really clean line, I'm actually going to use the pen tool, and I'm going to make sure it's set to path and not shape, because I'm not making a shape. And then what I'm going to do is use that to click and drag and form where I think that would follow the face. Now, if you are unfamiliar with the pen tool, it does take a little bit of getting used to, but it's well worth it in the sense that you can you get these really precise lines, and even as I'm doing it now, I'm like, I missed a bit, but I'm going to just go ahead and close that off. Now, of course, with the pen tool, you can add points to it, or if you hold down your command or control key, you can move aspects of it, or individual points, or anchor points, or anything like that. But I'm just going to use this as a demo for where I want this. So I've got that path done. I'm then going to hover over it, right click, and make selection. It's going to ask me if I want it feathered. I do not, and it's going to give me a selection area. So now I've got my selection. I've got a mask with, it's a blank mask, it's got nothing in it, and this area I actually want to hide. So I'm going to go paint bucket G, select black, and click, and done. So there it is. We've just done a little mask on that, and I can obviously use that later to blend in or delete or do whatever I want to in that mask. So a quick tip: if you do want to invert your mask, you can go Command or Control I for inverse, and it will inverse that. Of course, you can right click, delete it, and do whatever. So now I've got a mask on my group folder, and I've also got a mask on my image below, and so I've got quite a bit of control still for my image. All right, the next thing I'm going to suggest is what I should have done actually is make sure I've got a color correction on my starting image. So I'm just going to disable this mask. I'm actually going to merge these two layers together, which is kind of weird. So it's the repairs I did on the hair, and I forgot to select my mask. So Control Select, right click, and disable or delete mask. Awesome. Shift select both of those, merge them, Control E, and then I'm going to reapply that mask. Cool. All right, so I'm going to do a quick color correction on this guy. I'm actually going to delete the mask. I do apologize. I'm going to reconvert this guy to a a smart object. So right click, convert to smart object, and then I'm going to reapply that mask. Wow, a few steps. So the simple reason for that is I'm going to do some color correction. I should have done that to start with. My bad. Alright, so I'm going to start off with just image adjustments, and make sure you're on the layer, not the mask, otherwise you're adjusting the mask. So image adjust, usually what I'll start off with is levels, and this is just going to allow me to push in the dark and light points. It could be that you're happy with your image, but sometimes just, punching it around a little bit is good. So a little bit with the levels there, and then image adjust. I might go into color balance for this one, and just have a play around and see if you can get the color how you'd like it to start. So if you've got an environment and stuff in mind, then that could help, but just a little bit to start off. Make sure you're happy with it before you go bringing your images in. And then finally, image adjust hue and saturation. I typically find this one's good if you need to just like lower that saturation or ramp it up, and it can just really help. So get that first, and of course I've got my adjustments now attached to that smart object. Now this is not essential. If you've got a raster layer and you do that, it's permanent, and but if you're happy with it, it's on you. I'm going to minimize that so I don't see all the cool stuff on there. Alright, let's start bringing some images in. So a couple of key things when you are bringing images in is you really want to look at your starting image, whether it's a location or a person, and you kind of want to look at the angle. So try to think where the camera is. So that's going to define your perspective. This is really important for environments. If you're placing objects in an environment, if this is for a face, if I'm going to add a skull underneath this, something, I do want to be aware of the angle. So if you do have your image open while you're searching, you can do that. The other thing is I want to look at is light direction. So where are my shadows? Where are my highlights? This can be faked a little bit, but you want something with similar lighting or similar lighting directions, or objects that you can potentially flip or transform to get the lighting on there. So it's well worth thinking about. Colorization is a good one as well, but that's here or there. Alright, I've got a few images that I've just kind of scoured off from offline. We've got some mechanical parts. I've got some images of heads, an earthworm of all things, and there's a couple of skulls and stuff like that. So do have it, be fairly open to the images that you get. I'm just see if I can find something. I kind of like this image here with the egg. I'm going to bring that in. Alright, I'm going to drag that in there. Let's make sure it's outside of my group for now. I don't need it inside the group. And my typical process for this is mask out, do a quick mask, put your object in place. If it fits, then refine it. So, I'll sometimes cycle through like dozens and dozens of images of this. So, here's my image there. I can't see very well behind it, so one option is to lower the opacity so you can see both, which works really well. And I kind of think I'm only going to use this part of the egg as well. So I want to get my scale pretty close to what I think it's going to be. Cool. And then what I'm going to do is extract the outside parts of this. Now the simple reason for that is if I do end up masking this, so let's grab our, go to W, go to object selection, which works so well, it's pretty good. It's still got its flaws obviously, and I mask that. I've now got this egg, but when I transform it, Control T, my transformation controls are all the way out to the edges. So if that's going to be a problem, I'm just going to step back. What I'd suggest is get your image close to the size you need it, select around it, get a bit closer, and then, dare I say, extract it. Alright, not a good one, but let's keep going. So select that, and you can simply go Command or Control J, and that will copy and paste and create a new image. So we've now got that. Now you can do copy and paste, Control C, Control V, but it's sometimes it jumps it and stuff like that. So Control J is a great one to remember. Alright, so now when I transform it, my transformation controls are just a little bit closer. Alright, I'm going to go back to my W tool, my object selection tool, and let's make sure my shortcuts are working. And if it selects the area, this is a nice clean one, great. If not, you will need to go and try different tools. So whether that's your quick selection, your magic wand, edit select subject, lasso tools, whatever. But I'm going to hit that. I'm going to mask that. Awesome. Go back to my move tool, and I'm going to place this where I think it needs to be placed in the hierarchy. Now I'm going to place this, for me, I'm going to place this over his head. So let's move and rotate that a little bit. I'm going to scale it. Just see if I can get it how close to how I want it. Yeah, I want to get it. So I'm looking at these cracks as well. I want everything to kind of go into play. Alright, something like that. Now if you're not liking the placement of it, remember you can go Control T. You can hold down your Command key or Control key on a Mac. Control key on a Mac. Command or Control key. Oh my god. And then you can actually distort your corners. So that could be useful. Other options as well while you're in transformation mode is right click and you can go to warp. So right click warp and that will bring up a little bit more control as far as warping this around. So that could give you some nice options in there as well. If you do want to get more finicky with this, you can create a custom grid. And it's going to change your edits and that will give you a few more little options. Now personally I don't really like that as much. It kind of over warps, if that makes any sense, but that's getting pretty good. Your other option with this as well is to take your object and go to filter and liquefy. So this one's pretty handy. It allows us to smudge and move our image around. We can tick on show backdrop, which is going to allow us to see your layer, and you can actually play around with the opacity of that. Now it does get a little bit tricky. I'm just zooming in a bit because it gives a little ghost of where it was, so it can get a little bit hard to see sometimes. So let's go with that. All right, I'm getting pretty close to where I think I want it. I'm trying to get this to match up with the shape of his head. I'm going to go with something like that. Get that crack happening around a bit more. Actually, I might do a little bit of a warp. I'm trying not to be too perfectionist with this, but it's hard work. Alright, bit of a warp there. Awesome. Oops, I accidentally turned this into mask mode. Let's step out of it. Alright. If you ever do accidentally get into quick mask mode, you'll notice your layer turns red. It's actually this little button over here at the bottom of your toolbar. Shortcut is Q, so I accidentally did that. Just click out of that. It does happen. Alright, I'm going to bring my opacity back up again, and once again now I've got this dilemma. I actually want to start eating into this eggshell, so I don't want to destroy this egg mask at the moment. I'm a little bit petty like that. I could right click and apply it, which is at this point it's a pretty good mask, so that's fine. If you are getting petty with it, remember you can add this to a group folder like so. I'm going to recall this egg and then add a mask to that, so it's now a new mask. Grab your brush tool, and black brush is going to obviously start erasing. So what I'm going to do with this is I've got myself a soft round brush. I'm using right click to access my brushes with that selector. I've got black selected, soft round brush, and I'm going to start off with just the aggressive blends so far. So like that. As I get closer to the edges, I might adjust my brush size, but I'm also going to lower the opacity. So I'm actually going to drop this down to like 20%. It's going to allow that blending to be a little bit less. And I kind of want to get more of that egg in there, so I'm going to hit X. I'm going to switch back to white, and I'm going to rebuild that. I'm going to hit my... So best way of adjusting your opacity, in my opinion, is rather than using the slider up here, is just use the numbers on your keyboard. So if I hit 2, I instantly get 20. If I hit 0, I get back up to 100. And if you want anything in between, like 23, just go 2, 3, 2, 4, whatever. So I'm going to hit 0. I just want to get that edge nice and soft. And then I'm going to drop that down to like 20 and just start, getting a nice little blend in, and then maybe drop that down to 10. So it's kind of, he's forming into this egg, so to speak. Hooray. Alright, there's a few weird bits down the bottom which I might fix up later using stamp tool or something like that, but I'm going to leave that, just going to soften that in for now, and we'll worry about that in a moment. Cool. Alright, so it's kind of getting there. The next thing I'm going to suggest is actually doing a color correction. So this is going to be levels, colors, etc. Now there's a few, I'm going to go through the manual technique for doing this. I'm going to assume my mask is okay, and I'm going to right click, convert this to a smart object. So this way I can turn on or off my corrections. So typically I'll go through at least 3 corrections if I'm trying to match something to its environment, but there is a new feature that I'm desperately trying to try out. So first technique is I'm going to go to image, adjust, and levels, and this is going to allow me to kind of look at this, and it's try and figure out the dark and light areas of this. I can kind of see that there's it's fairly dark on the egg here, but let's just push in our levels. I don't really want to make it any darker. I could try and make it a bit lighter, or the balance in between, but what I'm actually probably going to do is go to the output, and I'm just going to push in the shadows a little bit. So sometimes it's just a matter of getting your eye in for it, but I'll probably do that. Just push so it's not as dark overall. Alright, I'm going to hit OK with that, and then I'm going to go to image, adjust, and I'm going to go to color balance. So this has got, it's already got quite a bit of red in it, so I might actually push down the red to a cyan color a little bit. It's also got a lot of yellow, so I might push that to blue now. So you can see now we're getting more of the pinks in his skin matching up with the eggs stuff there. So do try the other colors as well. Also, don't forget to check in your shadows. So that will give, if you have a look at his shadows here, they're quite sort of cyan-ish color. So that's going to help with that a little bit, but something like that. And let's hit the highlights as well. So he does have a bit of pink or magenta in his highlights, so that could be just a little tweak like that. So we're going from that to that. You could always paint in the colors after it. So I'm going to hit OK with that. The final one I usually do is go image, adjust, and hue and saturation, and I usually will just punch the saturation down or up a little bit if it needs it. So this one here, I actually feel it's kind of lost a bit of its color, so I'm going to go in with that. Cool. Alright, he's looking weird already. So there it is. Hue, saturation, color. If you need to adjust those or add more, go for it. Now I do want to try this, so I'm gonna be kind of brutal with this. This face layer, which has got, for some reason, this face layer which has got the smart object with the mask on it, I'm actually going to apply the mask for that. I want to get this layer by itself without the background, so I'm going to right click and apply mask, which I can't because it's a smart object, so I'm going to right click over here and rasterize the layer. Then I'm going to right click on the mask and apply the mask, so it's now him as is, without the background. Now the reason for that is I'm going to use this layer, it's currently layer 3, let's call it face main, and I'm going to use that as my reference for this eggshell layer. So I'm going to call this eggshell, just so we can really identify where this is. And let's go to color, I'm going to give it a yellow color. Cool. So eggshell and face main. Alright, let's try this out. So I'm going to go into filters and neural filters. So this is fairly new, and actually before I do that, I'm just going to cancel out for a second. Alright, just make sure I've turned off, I'm just going to make sure I've got all these smart filters turned off for this. So filter, neural filters, there it goes there, and I want to get one that is transfer color. It's still beta, so if you don't have it, or there might be just doing some adjustments, I'm going to turn that on. You might need to download that, and it goes color transfer, and it's going to allow you to transfer colors from another image. Now, we got select an image. Okay, so it's not actually allowing me to select this directly. So what I might do for that is I'm going to take this face main image. I'm going to right click and quick export as a PNG, and I'm going to put that in my documents for now. So this might go haywire, but let's try it. So filter, neural filters, awesome, and color transfer, let's turn that on, awesome. And I'm going to go to custom, select an image from computer, face main, use this image, cool. And it's definitely not what I was chasing, so it was worth a go. The idea of it is that it takes the colors from the existing image and then transfers them across. It could work fairly well, but switching this to RGB, that's not, it's maybe doing a little bit, but it's still at this point probably not going to override what we've done manually. So but hey, look, try this stuff out. It can actually get some good effect. All right, so that's how to bring in an image, color correct it, mask it, blend it, all the rest of it. I'm going to just add a couple of more things that I think are good tricks to use. So I've got this image here, this old TV screen. Let's bring that in. I probably don't need it that big, but I'm going to scale it a little bit. Sorry, I just realized I do have the scale option not linked. So if you don't have that, I just want to stretch it, that's all. So I'm going to bring that in. I'm going to see how well the auto select works for that. If it works well, great. If not, do jump in with your mask, with your lasso tools as well. So I'm just going to poly lasso tool. There's a few bits here which I think just need to be added or subtracted, particularly for like mechanical items. This works pretty well. And I don't want the back of this, so I'm going to hit Alt, and I'm just going to zip through that. Cool, and I'm going to mask that out. Alright, it's not great, but let's blame it on time constraints. So I want to get rid of this chord as well. Cool. So paint bucket or paintbrush works really well. Otherwise you get these little ghosts. So full opacity, done. Cool. So this is a smart object, and Adobe has made some changes to this next technique that I want to show you. So what I'm thinking of doing for this is placing this sort of over his head like a visor. So it's kind of got an old school vibe to it. We're going to use a technique called puppet warp. So select your layer, make sure your layer is selected, not your mask, and edit and go to perspective warp. And what this allows you to do is actually create a grid over your image, get that to try and match the perspective of it, because it's really hard to get everything in the correct perspective sometimes. So let's give it a go. I'm going to create a third one at the top, and you can see it kind of automatically snaps. So I'm getting that to try and match. And then theoretically what you can do is you can go to switch to warp, and that will allow you to start moving this around. Now this is the issue that we've got. So this is not taking the mask with. So as I warp this out, so that's the reason why I didn't put it in place first. So what you can actually do is go to right click and rasterize layer. Cool. Now I also recommend getting it close to the scale and the position that you want it. So I'm going to move this like closer to over here, for example, like so, and I'm going to re-bring the opacity up. Actually, maybe a little bit of opacity down so I can kind of see where his eyes are. Alright, now I'm going to go to Edit and Perspective Warp, and I'm going to redo my mesh. So it's a little bit annoying because you've got to, you know, if you mess it up, you've got to do it again. So pop that in. Nice. I probably should have fixed up the chord, the repair tool here, but yeah, we can do that later. Awesome. Alright, switch this to warp and check this out. So a smart object will not take the mask with it when you distort it, whereas a raster layer will. So that's kind of interesting. So I can actually go back and refine my mask a little bit more with that. Now this isn't perfect. It's actually, I'm having a little bit of drama getting the perspective here correct because of the top section. So because of the perspective of this, it's actually, you're not going to see the top part. So that can cause a little bit of dramas later on. So, be aware of that. A little bit of finicking, quite a bit of finicking actually. That top section is really playing mischief for me. I'm going to call it something like that, but essentially it allows you to just transform and distort something to fit. Now the other thing I'm going to try with this is I'm actually going to transform this, right click and flip it vertically, and so you kind of want to get your images to best fit the perspective, and this is probably going to be an easier perspective because I am going to see the under part of that. And then once again you can go to edit and apply your transformation first and then edit and perspective warp, drag your grid over, and this is probably going to play quite a bit better than the previous one that I did, so because it just matches a bit better like so. Something like that. Switch to warp. It's going to tell you how the instructions are going to tell you what to do anyway. It's just going to lay. So it works for like boxy items, which is one of the reasons why I chose this image. If it's not a boxy item, then that becomes an issue. And I've still got my mask intact at this point, so if need be, I could potentially use that to select my mask, grab a black brush or a lasso or something like that, and I could cut out the section where maybe it forms along the face or something like that. So kind of see how that's going, and a lot of this is just like finesse. I could still go through and try and repair like this chord or something like that, or maybe I just want to cut this section off completely. So just using the lasso tool for this one. So select the areas you want to get rid of. B for brush, select the mask, black brush, and paint it in. So done and done. And then it's a matter of figuring a way to integrate that. A fun one you could do potentially for this as well is grab your start image here and just grab a section of that and Control C, Control V, place that above. I'm going to put it over here somewhere. I'm going to grab that TV screen. I'm going to go to W and switch it out to probably the quick selection tool. Select over the screen area there. Go to the eyes, hit the mask button, and let's unlink the image from the mask, and that's going to allow me to move that around. I actually accidentally moved the mask though. So if you can't find where it is, so I'm just going to do that again. So let's hit that mask. If you can't find your image, just select it and go Control T. And of course, if it's linked, the mask is going to move with it. So unlink the mask from the layer, and if you hit Control T, oh, there it is. And now you can see it's going to move into play. And maybe you could expand it up or distort it or do whatever you want, like so. Then try your blend modes. You might be able to get something interesting over the top of that. I'm going to go, with that for now. It's looking kind of weird, but it's kind of the point. All right, let's bring back some of the other stuff. We got the egghead, we got that there. All of the stuff is just, keep smashing integration on, keep, use whatever tools are necessary. I'm going to just throw in a couple of extra ones in here. So I've got a few weird, wonderful mechanical bits and stuff like that. Let's do. So fairings are kind of cool. Another TV. There was a cord in here somewhere. This one here. All right. Let's bring this one in here. So it's a bit of corrugated tubing. So one of the big ones that I usually get asked is like, how do you do corrugated tubing? Well, let's have a look. So I'm going to switch over to our object selection tool. Let's see how that works. And not so great. So Shift W. Let's go to this one. I'm going to drag that through and mask that. And I'm happy with. Actually, I'm not too happy with that mask, but I'll do a quick fix up. There's a couple of little scallywag bits that I want to fit, so I'm going to go with my brush. I'm just going to paint that in. Awesome. Okay, I'm going to apply this as a mask. So I'm going to go to my mask, right click. I can't apply it because it's a smart object yet again. So right click, rasterize layer, right click on the mask, and apply layer mask. That's going to turn it. Now if you're very confident of your selection, then don't worry about that. Like, you just delete it, whatever you need to. But I'm going to scale this down. So if I want to do a long bit of tubing, if you've got a really good image, I try to get this as flat as possible. I think I looked for like corrugated tube. I'm just going to duplicate that across and try and make it a bit longer. So shortcut for duplicating, if you've got your move tool, hold down Alt. That will allow you to drag it out. So I'm going to hold down Shift as you're doing it. It's just going to keep it horizontal, and that's going to create a bit longer. If it's bending or something like that, you're going to get some distortion, which is going to be weird, but this one's not too bad. So I'm going to select both of those, right click and merge. There it is, Command or Control E, and now I've got a tube. So typically what I'll do for that is I'll dump it off to the side a little bit and then get a duplicate out, so that way I'm not destroying it, because this is kind of a destructive technique. Put it roughly where you want to place it. So I'm thinking I might have this coming out of his cheek, maybe kind of going around the egg a little bit. So to distort this, there is a transformation option in here called so if you go edit and puppet warp, like so. Now by default it comes in with show mesh on, so it's actually going to show you mesh. So you can expand this out. It's going to give you a little bit more leeway when you are distorting it, hopefully. And then what you can do is actually put in some puppet pins. So you can click in, like 3 for example, and that's going to allow you to actually start moving this around. So it's kind of getting there. It will sometimes involve like retweaking areas like that, and some of it is going to get fairly distorted. You can add more pins if need be, if it's starting to get really weird, to kind of loosen it up. But it'll get you so far. If you go too far, it will it'll yell at you for one. It will kind of crunch in on itself, but with a little bit of play you might actually get it to look fairly close to the way that you want it. So look, that's one way of sort of adding tubes, and I've got my backup over here, so if I need to make more I can, and I can add some additional effects and all the rest of it. I'm going to turn this TV off, sorry, it's just annoying me, that's all. So awesome. So there's my little tube there. So after you've done that, it's going to be a matter of getting it to integrate. So you could run through your color corrections for this. So image adjust, hue saturation, levels, color balance. Another one you could potentially do is if you go to image adjust and go to replace color. So if it's a big one, you can go to replace color and you just hover over and click on the area you want to change the color of. So this works well if it's a saturated color, and then you can go through and change the hue of that, and you can also change the saturation of it and even the lightness of it. So as you can see, this one's kind of missed out some of the the orange bits here. So if that's the case, you can go plus and you can add those to it. I actually kind of liked it. I thought it was kind of cool. But this will allow you to, you know, really sort of play around with the colors if need be. So let's go with something. I'm half looking at the colors and half looking at what I want. Probably a little bit of red. I'm trying not to get too distracted with that. All right, let's just go with that for now. But the other thing I really suggest doing is adding textures over the top of this. So I'm going to quickly see if I can find. Do check out Pexels as well. They've got some really good free stock stuff. So let's go for metal texture. And when you are looking for texture, do look for textures. Like type in the word texture. So that one's kind of interesting. All right, let's download that. Cool, and I'm going to dump this into my Photoshop document. Cool, so there's a funky metal texture, and what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to have it above that corrugated bit of pipe, and I'm going to right click and right at the bottom create clipping mask. So Shift Control G or Shift Command G on a Mac, and you can see it's going to stick to wherever that piping is. So because it's the layer below, so I'm going to rotate, move that around. Then what I'm going to do is go to my blend modes and just cycle through those. And see, I'm starting to get like a nice little grit texture coming through. So you get different results from different blend modes. I usually find the best ones are usually multiply. Screen's good for certain things. Overlay's a pretty good one as well. And that's going to blend that texture in with specifically with that layer below. So really effective. And if you need to add less or more textures, whatever's necessary. If you need to paint in shadows, you can create a new layer above again, and brush, use your selection tool, paint in a shadow, for example. Right click, create clipping mask. It's going to clip it to there below. Run through your blend modes, and I've just painted in a multiply blend mode there. Lower the opacity, and same thing for lighting effects, and it's just going to clip it down. So if you're happy with that, you could group it, you can convert it to a smart object, or you can merge it. But that kind of starts getting you figuring out how to distort and displace and put all that kind of stuff in there. Alright, I think I've only got a couple more things I want to show you for this one here. But a lot of it's just like, bring images in, transform, distort, place, warp, whatever's necessary to fit them into place, and then fix them up from there. So as a quick one, go through, let's try select subject. Awesome, that works. Cool. Find the place that you're going to put it. For some reason this one is freaking out. Sorry, I'm just going to, my Photoshop's going a bit crazy. It's not liking the fact that I've put a mask on there and distorting it and transforming it, even though I'm just doing a standard transform. Alright, it's freaking out. I'm just going to rasterize this because I've got it about the size I need it. I'm not going to be transferring up and down. Right click, apply layer mask. And lower the opacity till you figure out where you want it. I'm going to just do like the back of the skull sticking out. That's kind of gross. I like it. Cool. Awesome. I'm going to use this eggshell as a selector for this. So in this case, I'm going to go to the quick selection tool. Sample of layers is fine. And I'm just going to run through, see where this generative fill starts annoying me. Let's move it out of the way. And I'm going to drag through and select all the areas that I want. And I'm going to alt select, drag through the areas I want to remove. So, or at least apply to a mask. So I've got this area selected, which is his body. I've got the gap of this not selected. I'm going to turn back on my skull. There's a few little weird bits in here, so I'm going to just grab my lasso, Alt, and I'm going to hit the mask button. Well, no, it's the wrong way around. Well, it's going to happen. So option is Control Shift I, or you can go select inverse. It's going to reverse the selection, or just apply the mask. Boom. Sorry, it's just apply the mask and then select your mask and go Command or Control I to inverse that again. So there we go. Unlink the image from the mask, and now I've got, I could even have that animating, which is super gross, but we can place that in there. The next thing I'm going to say is, like, when you start getting your images in, run through the color correction for them, hue, saturation, all the rest of it, and then also start thinking about drop shadows. So obviously, the light's coming in, it's going to drop a shadow on from the eggshell onto the skull there. One of the things you could potentially do is reuse masks or reuse aspects of the layer. So I've already got a mask here that's kind of got the shape I need of the eggshells. So if you hit Control or Command and select in a layer or a mask, it will select the contents of that. So I might actually use that as a shadow. So I'm going to have that selected, create a new blank layer. I'm going to go Paint Bucket, and I'm going to fill that in with a shape. Now I actually don't want this part. I want the opposite of it. So I'm going to inverse the selection, select inverse, and then fill that. So it's going to give me that shape of that egg. There it is there. I don't want all of it, so I'm going to grab my lasso tool and just like chunk out a bit of it. Delete it. Done. And I'm going to place that above the skull layer, like so. But then, this is the next tricky part, is I'm going to hit Control, Command, select the mask again for the skull. So that's this area that's allowed to expose it, and then apply that to that black layer that I've just created. So it just means that that's only going to be visible in where that skull is currently poking out. I'm going to unlink the mask from the layer, and I'm then going to move that layer in, and then maybe transform it, or right click and warp that in, and try and get that to form around and fudge that as a fake drop shadow. That's getting fairly close. Needs a few little tweaks in it. So this area here, for example, I'm going to paint that on with a mask. And I could use a secondary mask for this, but I'm getting lazy now. And note I'm just switching between black and white as far as what is being made visible and what is not. So X will do a short area of that. So this area here with the shadow doesn't need to be. I'm just going to manually paint that out. Alright, so it's kind of getting there. Let's lower the opacity of that. That's going to allow it to sort of be a little bit more visible through. And let's blur it a little bit. So filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and rookie mistake there, I'm actually doing that on the mask. I'm going to do it on the layer. So filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and that's just going to add a nice little soft blur to that as well. So it's it's just the little things that are going to be used. Now you could try and manually do this, but it's using a shape for an object is pretty good. Final touches for this as well. I do have the mask on there already, but I'm going to add this to a group folder, or I could apply, if I'm like totally happy with it, add a mask to that. And just a real subtle one is grabbing your brush tool, low opacity, so like 10%, black, and nice soft brush, and just soften the edges of this shadow. So as the shadow gets close, further from the object, it is going to soften quite a bit. And it's it's a small thing, but it's an important one as well. Awesome. So hopefully that gives you like a couple of really interesting tools to start bringing your objects in. And finding the right images is obviously paramount, but integrating them is super important. Uh, One tiny little thing extra, this is something I get quite often, is like, the cabling thing is always a big one. I'm going to show you a quick hack for doing a cable. So I'm going to do a new layer, and this is good for small cables, nothing really big, but essentially what we can do with that is we can use the pen tool to create a path or a shape. So again, I've got a new layer for this, and the two options for this is, if you create this as a shape, what I'd suggest is turn the fill to none and the stroke to a size that's going to work. So you'll know when you actually create it, it's going to create the width. So if that's too low or too high, just make adjustments. And then what I'm going to do is, I've just realized I've put this in a new layer, is just going to basically click and drag out the shape of the cable. So you're going to get your curve there first. You can change the color of that as well if need be, so it's something you can do later on anyway using layer styles. So I'm just going to do that. I'm going to enter out of that, and now I've got my new shape. Now you can adjust this anytime you want. If you grab the the direct selection tool, or even the pen tool, this will allow you to actually rejig that that path. So it's kind of non-destructive in that sense. So you can move and rotate that around and get quite a bit of control on it, or add more points, or whatever you need to do. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to add a little bit of style to it. So to do that, I'm going to go to the FX button and I'm going to go to Bevel Emboss. Now mine's kind of getting close there already. I'm going to go reset to default, so it's going to show you what it looks like as normal. So we can change the depth of this, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit just so you can kind of see a bit closer. So in a bevel I've chosen smooth. We've got the depth, which is doing one thing, but we can also change out the size of this and also soften it. So if you do kind of soften this out, you can see we're kind of getting this this kind of cable looking effect. And as we head down, we've also got the option of changing the angle. Now I really do recommend doing this. Turn off global lighting, because if you've got multiple layers with global lighting ticked on, if you make a change to the global lighting, it will change it in all of the layers. So that might not be one, so I'm going to turn off global lighting, and you can actually change the lighting direction of this. You can even go in and change the color of the lighting if you wanted to. So that's going to have a certain effect, and there is a blend mode for this, so depending on what your blend mode is, it's going to attach the color and blend it in that particular way. Same thing with a shadow. If you want to change the colors of your shadow, for example, and have that blending in. But that's kind of a really good hack for doing cables. And of course, when you create a new one, it's not a great curve, like so. That's going to create a new shape. Just hit enter to apply it, and then what you can do is, if you've got the effect that you want, you can right click on the layer, go to copy layer style, go to the new one, right click and paste layer style, and it will paste that across. So that way we get these really cool kind of cable effects, and it holds up fairly well. Add some textures over the top of it. I'm going to duplicate this pixels texture that I created, for example. And also, if you do want to have a texture affecting multiple layers at the same time, you can put them in a group. So I'm going to take these cables out of that group that I've got here. This is looking really scruffy, but and I'm going to add them to a group folder. Let's call it cables. Grab this, and let's find a good blend mode for that. That one's interesting. I'm going to right click and create clipping mask, and it's going to clip it specifically to that cable layer, and then I can find a good position for that. Check your blend modes, lower your opacities, color correction, whatever's necessary to get a good result. So I love layering stuff up. It just really adds a little bit of, you know, oomph that you wouldn't particularly see normally. All right, something like that. All right, as you start reaching completion, you know, try displacement maps. They're great as well. But as you start adding completion, that's when you can start using overall color corrections and stuff like that. So we've got our adjustment layers down the bottom here. I'm up the top here already. This is going to allow you to do things like open up your properties panel. So there's one for levels. It's going to adjust everything below. So this could be an opportunity once you've kind of finished everything, is do an adjustment layer for stuff like that. So down to your color balance, if you need to, you can punch that up. It's going to affect all the layers below, which is really good. Or you can even try some of the really funky stuff like where are we? Threshold. Whoa, how cool is that? Not really looking realistic, but there's some super weird stuff in here that you can play with. But besides that, start thinking about integrating all of your shadows and lighting. So, I've got all of these images here. They are all kind of tied down together, and I'm going to just do this fairly roughly, but hopefully give you an idea. So you can actually you can either group all these together, or you can group select these. So I'm going to hit the Command or Control key, and I'm going to select the main layers. So I'm select on the face. I'm going to hit Shift, and I'm going to just click through the other layers that have elements to them. So there's my mask, my skull. I've got my cables. I think that's what I've got here. That's not quite what I wanted. It's alright. Cables are being elusive. Pretty sure it's that one. Okay. Oh, it's creating as a shape. Okay. Doesn't matter. I'm just going to rasterize the layer style. Rasterize layer style. There we go. All right. So now, essentially because it was a shape, not a path, it closes it off. It does the weird stuff. So anyway, I've rasterized the layer style on that, and now you can see it's actually selecting the cables properly. I'm just going to shift select through the other main elements. That's mostly got all of them. I got my little curved pipe there. So that's got all of those. I'm going to go right to the very tip top, and I'm going to add a mask to a blank layer. So this is just going to allow me to manually paint this stuff in. If you do have a Wacom or similar, this works really well. And essentially what I can do with this is I could start painting over shadows that are going to affect the entire image or add lighting to the entire image. So I'm going to kind of do this with, I might do this with like a white brush. So here's my blank layer. I'm missing something up here. Okay, I'm missing part of the egg there. There we go. So I'm just going to control select the egg as well. Grab that mask, and I'm just going to add to that with a white brush. There we go. Cool. So just add it to that. Alright, so now when I paint in this, it's going to stick to all of the layers. So I'm just going to get it pretty rough, but I'm going to add this little sort of area here. I might add one with a bit of color, just to sort of make things weird, but whatever. That looks super weird. And then what I'm going to do is just run through my blend modes for that. So in this case, I'm probably going to look for something like overlay or maybe soft light in there, and it's just going to give me something that's going to cover the entire image and give me a singular light source or shadow. So I could add, create a new layer. If I hold down the Alt Option key, I can drag a new mask onto that, and I can go, alright, I'm going to paint in some shadows that are going to affect everything in that layer. Change the blend mode, lower the opacity, or get something that's going to work for it. But it just, because it's going to be a holistic paint over, it's going to affect all the layers below it within the realms of that mask. And it's just a nice way of just integrating everything under one light source or whatever it is, or color source or something like that. So it's a little bit of finessing on there, and it works pretty well, I think. All right, do save regularly while you're doing this. Obviously, a bit late me telling you this now, and file, save as, or save, and see if you can get a good location for it. I do recommend if you do have access to Adobe Cloud, use that. If you are uncertain of it saving correctly, do save it to a hard drive or another cloud drive, but just check that it's actually worked. And yeah, we'll see you on the next time.